This video will cover the setup and execution of the pickup style double leg takedown, with special attention given to doing a double leg while wearing a gi. This video will continue my Lost Art of Judo series as I delve deeper into the double leg takedown, known in judo by the name Morote Gari, which is now one of the many banned techniques under the current standard judo competition rules. Even though judo has changed significantly due to the extensive rule changes, many of these lost techniques are still highly effective and useful for other grappling disciplines, such as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Sambo, and Wrestling. While these techniques may, for at least the time being, be lost to judo, their practice and efficacy can still live on in other grappling disciplines. Let's give a little background. I started judo as a teenager way back in the 1990s, before leg grabs were banned in standard judo competitions. I have experience doing double legs in 3 different grappling disciplines. 4 if you consider no-gi submission grappling to be a separate style from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu wearing a gi. Here is an old clip of me doing a pickup double leg in a wrestling match as a teenager. In this next video clip, I am attempting a double leg takedown in a judo competition in my early 20s. And here is a clip of me executing a double leg pickup in a no-gi submission grappling tournament that I competed in during my late 20s. And in this video clip, I am shooting a double leg takedown during a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practice in my 40s. That's me on the right side of your screen competing in a judo competition many years ago, before leg grabs were banned while standing in judo. I shot my first double leg in a grappling competition well over 20 years ago, and I am still shooting double legs in the practice room today. The double leg takedown has been a staple of many different grappling arts. The reason for this is clear. The double leg takedown is quite simply one of the most effective takedowns in the world of grappling, and its effectiveness has proven itself across different grappling disciplines and across time. It is also one of the easiest takedowns for a beginner to learn, and it maintains its effectiveness even up to elite levels of competition. The physical movements required for many judo techniques often feel awkward and unnatural when you first start doing them, and usually only start to feel natural through hours of repetition. Moves like the double leg takedown, on the other hand, at first exposure tend to feel less awkward and unnatural for a beginner as compared to many judo throws. This easier learning curve, combined with its extreme effectiveness, make the double leg takedown an ideal takedown for a beginning grappler to learn. Do not misunderstand me. The double leg takedown is still very much a learned skill, and a skill that can be vastly improved upon through practice over time. But, nevertheless, a beginner can usually get started using the double leg as an effective tool faster than many throws. And when it comes to shooting a double leg in gi, I would argue that you usually actually want to shoot the double before your opponent has established either grip on your gi. It is much harder to shoot a double leg in gi once grips have been established, and even a single grip can represent an obstacle to successful execution. This factor creates a fundamental difference between shooting a double leg takedown while wearing a gi as opposed to shooting a double leg takedown in a no-gi situation. In no-gi, you can shoot a double leg either before the tie-up or after tying up. However, in gi grappling, it becomes very, very difficult to shoot a double leg once grips have been established because the grips on a gi act like little handles holding your body away from your opponent. And close proximity to your opponent is usually a key to a successful double leg takedown. Generally speaking, I would say that it is harder to successfully execute a double leg in gi due to the mechanism of grip blocking a shot, as well as the increased friction and risk of grips catching you as you are trying to execute your shot. However, one advantage to doing a double leg in gi is that once you get your own grips on the pant legs of your opponent, it can be harder for your opponent to break away, and this gives you increased power due to the solid grips you have on their trousers. In summary, I would say it is harder to get to a proper double leg entry position while wearing a gi, but once you get there, it is easier to execute if you can get to the right position with your shot. While many features of the double leg cross successfully between gi and no gi, the double leg setups, however, can change substantially while wearing a gi due to the obstacle of grips while wearing a gi. One of my favorite ways to finish a double leg is by lifting my opponent clean off the mat. In doing so, it allows you a lot of control in the position that you are in when you return your opponent to the mat. A setup I like to use to shoot a double leg while wearing gi is to either flail my hands toward my opponent's upper body or to grab the wrists or forearms of my opponent and do a lifting motion on both sleeves and then suddenly drop my elevation and shoot under my opponent's arms for the legs. A key is to get the penetration steps deep enough and quickly enough before your opponent can establish defensive grips. A second setup I like to do is to grab and lift one wrist as I take my penetration step and grab one leg with my free hand, followed by releasing the wrist and moving my second hand to a double leg grab position. Once you've successfully executed your penetration steps, now you need to finish your pickup double leg. To do this, you usually want to have your head on one side of their hips when you arrive at their legs from your shot. When you feel your opponent's weight lean slightly over your back, in that moment, stand up with your opponent on your shoulder. Once your opponent is in the air on one of your shoulders, then thread your furthest hand between their legs. Move your other hand across the side of your opponent's body between the hip and the chest. You can then roll your opponent off your shoulder and into your arms, with your opponent in a somewhat horizontal position in the air. Then drop to one knee, and as you do so, cause your opponent's legs to drape across the leg of your planted knee as you bring your opponent down to the mat, which prevents your opponent from getting footing on the way down. This increases your chances of a successful takedown. As you are bringing your opponent down with their legs draped over your planted knee, shift your opponent's body so that they land directly in the side control position. Please remember when you lift your opponent off the mat to be careful that you don't land them on their head upon return to the mat. In either the practice room or a tournament, when you have an opponent in the air, in this way, they are in a vulnerable position and you share in the responsibility to bring them back to the mat without injury. If you enjoyed this video, please like and also subscribe so that you can see more of my content. Thanks for watching.